But tonight, we really want to make sure that it's question and answer. There are so many opportunities out there, and we want everyone to ask their questions versus us just continuously talking. I want to tell you a little bit about the Cube. Basically, in a normal year, we probably would have met with your student, because what the Cube does is we pull in all of the students one at a time, literally from seniors, juniors, and sophomores, and we meet with them for about 10, 15 minutes, sometimes a whole class period, depending on how much help that they want or need. Well, this year, obviously due to COVID, we haven't been able to do that. So we decided, hey, let's do what everybody else is doing, a Zoom. So this evening, it's kind of like how we would be talking to your students, but it's the parents. And of course, if you do want to grab your child and make them participate, we would welcome that as well. So let's go ahead and get started with all the answers, and she's going to take us through our agenda today of all of the different things we're going to be talking about.
All right, so I am going to share my screen as soon as oh, here we go. Okay. All right, so let me just double check and make sure this is the most recent. Yes, okay, this is the correct PowerPoint. All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Ann Eason, and I have been working as a volunteer in the Cube for the last 8 years. I had 2 kids who went to Robinson out of my 3 kids, and they graduated. The youngest one graduated in 2016. But I really enjoyed working with the students, and so I stuck around and I continued to volunteer. And I went ahead and got an extra certification in college counseling, so that I could feel qualified to present information to the students and also to the parents. So we work very closely with the student services office at Robinson. Mr. Clay is the college and career counselor, and then Mrs. Dabosky is the head of all the guidance department. And so we basically work with the kids and listen to what student services is telling us that they need. But this year is so different because the kids are signing up to meet with us, and we've been working with a few of them, but we really realized, especially after talking with Amy Marie, that there's a need to get information out kind of at a larger scale. So we put together this presentation tonight. And so what I wanted to do was just go through the basics about financial aid. And as Michelle said, I'll stop at any point if people have questions. I think Michelle has it kind of in her head, like where we're going to stop. There's going to be points at which we'll stop and say, all right, time for questions.
Yep.
Because there's, tons of ways to understand how to help pay for college.
And the great thing about tonight is that we want to make sure that we move quickly through the material so that we can get to everything, but we also are going to have the PowerPoint posted. In fact, it's actually already up. You can see the link in the chat where the entire PowerPoint is already posted. So we're going to kind of speed through this so we can make sure we get to all of your questions and answers. We're going to talk about types of financial aid, 4 simple steps to find money for college, special focus on Florida Bright Future scholarships, and alternative ways to pay for college. So it's going to be fast moving, but we're going to cover it all.
All right, here we go. Okay, so this is just the definition. Financial aid encompasses 3 different kinds. There's gift aid, which is the kind that's like the best. That's why we have it at the top of the list. That's merit or need-based aid that you don't have to pay back. Loans are things that we tend to try to avoid. And work study is something a lot of people don't know what that is, but by completing some of the financial aid forms, you can make your child eligible to get a job on campus. And that's called work study. And then they can keep that income.
I think it's really good to point out that so many people really feel like the only way to get scholarships or grants is if you're need-based. For some scholarships and grants, yes, that is definitely true. But what we're going to cover here tonight, we're also going to really heavily focus on merit-based gift aid, scholarships, ways that you can help supplement paying for college, basically because your student has done really well in high school.
Yeah, so this is a really complicated, beautifully put together slide that I won't go through too much, except we'll just go through the very top, that how to pay for college. There's a lot of different ways. First, actually, the major way people pay for college is that they either saved enough money to pay for college, or they put money away in a 529, or they were really smart and got Florida prepaid. And I'm on the left-hand side of the slide. Or they've made investments, or they get gifts from, you know, their relatives. And, you know, under family funds is private loans. That's another way. So family funds is one way, and actually that's the top way most people pay for college. The next column is the federal financial aid. And to qualify for federal financial aid, you have to complete the FAFSA, which we're going to talk about in more detail. The FAFSA stands for, you can see it says free application for federal student aid. Until you get into this world of having to apply for financial aid, you probably never heard of a FAFSA before. But I'm not going to go into too much detail because we'll get into it a little bit later, but it qualifies you. The biggest thing is for a Pell Grant, and a Pell Grant is need-based. When you fill out the FAFSA, you get something, a number from that tells you whether you're going to qualify for a Pell Grant. You need to have relatively low income, but they also take into account how many other people in your family are in college. They also take into account the age of the parents, and a few other things in order to determine whether somebody qualifies for a Pell Grant. And we'll talk more about Pell Grants later. But to do a FAFSA then also qualifies the student to get federal work study when they're on campus, and also loans. So parents can take out loans, or the student can take out loans.
And you know what I love about this, Anne? I love this slide because it's a lot, but what I love is your color coding. Because if people really just take a second, focus in on the lime green colors. When you really kind of ignore what's on the screen, but you look at the lime green colors, those are your work-related free, those are your free resources. I'm talking specifically about the lime green. There's about 15 different free resources on this one page. So I know it's a lot on here to grasp, but when you look at the lime green colors, and I've said lime green a lot, so by now you should definitely be looking at them: grants, scholarships, bright futures, scholarships, community-based scholarships, professional association scholarships. Those are the things that we're talking about in lime green that we're really going to try to show you tonight. So I know that this slide is huge and tons of stuff, and we'll have it posted. But Anne, I just really wanted to kind of, I don't want people to get freaked out. I want them to know lime green. Look at that.
And I love that. And you're right. That's the gift aid. The lime green is the gift aid and the scholarship.
Question for you, just real quick.
Yep.
A lot of these things, they require essays and signing up and a lot of work to get $500 or $1,000. I'm not saying that that's not important, but having a senior in the IB program and trying to apply to college, it's a lot of work.
It is.
That's all I'm saying.
It is definitely a lot of work.
Yeah,
you are 100% correct.
Because of IB, I'll tell you, if I had another way to do it, I would have done it differently. I just think the IB is just a very difficult program senior year. So doing the FAFSA and the CSS form is what I'm online here for, to find out some information about, make sure I'm doing it right. And I'm not saying those scholarships aren't beneficial. It's just really hard to ask a senior to do all of that if they're in IB. That's all. But yes, my daughter's doing it, but boy, oh boy, is it difficult.
It is. And that's why we wish more parents would participate in these types of informational sessions their sophomore and junior year. My son is in the IB program as well. And one of the main reasons that I got involved with the Cube is to truly start learning this information early. So I've already started.
Great. That's
really great. It is.
I wish I did it last year.
So tell moms and dads, tell them start junior year for sure.
But can you apply for scholarships a year early?
Some of them you can, and we'll
Okay,
talk about
okay,
Raise Me in
sure.
just a couple seconds,
Okay,
and you'll
I'll be
see.
quiet now. Thank you.
No, we love this. In fact, I want to make sure we get your information because you mentioned the CSS. And do you mind if you'd like, it's up to you, but we want to try to make sure we get you some help with that because that's the kind of things that we need to know. What do parents need help with? And I've heard that CSS is a beast. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
might,
thank you.
can she just private message you, Ann or Sherry, or?
Yeah,
Or
I
I
would
can
just
get
say
with you
that,
afterwards.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's private schools is what it
Oh
is.
yeah.
It's, and to be honest with you, I don't particularly want my daughter going to a private school, but she applied to some of them. So, we'll take all the, anyway, yes,
Yeah.
it's just private schools. The FAFSA is what's most important. And the other thing you might want to hit on is if you've had fraud on your tax return, you can't link the IRS with the FAFSA, and that's very difficult.
Got it. Well, it sounds like you need
Yes.
to be a new volunteer in the queue.
Oh,
So we'll just send you an
maybe I
application.
should. No, I will. But anyway, you
Yes.
guys go ahead. Thank you. Sorry.
All righty, Ann, where do you want to pick up at?
all right, so all I'm going to say is we're going to actually go over all these other things in the following slide. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, just that basically that there's 5 main sources of financial aid. All right, so and then on every page, you're going to see that there's going to be links that you can get to all of these. You'll have the PDF of this PowerPoint that's posted, and there all the links are a lot. What's the word? Live.
Yep.
You can click
You'll
on
be able
them
to
and
click
make
on them
them.
and get to where
Yeah.
you need to go.
Okay, so understanding a financial aid process, basically, I just narrowed it down to 4 steps. And step 1 is a little different. It's that before you need to find out how much aid you need to know how much it costs at the college where your student wants to go. So the first step is researching the cost of attendance. And cost of attendance is tuition, room, board, books, and then transportation, other expenses, computers and things like that. That all goes into this cost of attendance. And it's different. I actually have some slides coming up that that tell you about different costs of attendance. Step 2 is, so first you have to find out how much it costs. Step 2 is then you do your applications, your FAFSA, and then the FFAA is the state of Florida financial aid form. And we'll talk about that also in a minute. Step 3 is then apply directly for aid to the colleges. And that's what the CSS profile is, as well as some of the schools have their own financial aid forms. You have to find it, you have to fill out. And then
Go ahead.
step 4 is just that there are some other ways that I just love talking about this step 4, that there might be other ways that you can actually bring down the cost of attendance by having your students do some things a little bit differently. So that's step 4. Okay,
Perfect.
Michelle, what
And you
did
know
you
what
need
I
to
like
say?
to say about this slide? Just try to get as much money as you can because we all know school's expensive and we want to really just research how to get those scholarships. All right, where else are we at?
Okay, so my main point with this slide is that there is a sticker price and there is a net price. Sticker price is what I have on this slide, which is the overall cost as it's published on their website. This is what kids think. For example, look at the bottom right one, private out of state, 4-year selective universities. I just picked like the most selective, Harvard and Stanford. And if you look at total cost of attendance, 73,000 and 74,000. So I don't know about all of you, but that's a little bit steep for most families.
And I know y'all are probably thinking, well, yeah, that's why we're on this call, because these sticker prices give you sticker shock. Well, what Ann is trying to make sure that we really elaborate on is that the sticker price literally is like the sticker price of a new car. When you go into the lot, you see the most expensive option, but hopefully when you leave that car lot, you've gotten your prices a little bit better. And that's what we want to make sure that we really get across to everyone who's on the Zoom tonight. All right, Ann, now show us how we get these prices gone.
Okay, well, what I wanted to show you is, so these are 5 different kinds of colleges. There's the 2-year colleges on the top left. In the middle are the four-year universities, and there's 12 of them in the state of Florida. And they all of their tuitions are very similar. If you look at that, they're somewhere around 6,000 to 6,400 for a year. And then if you look, yeah, so basically I wanted to highlight how different the prices are. So if your child decides to go to HCC for the first year or first 2 years and then transfer to University of Florida, you're going to save a lot of money, because you can see on the slide, the top left, that if he goes to HCC for 2 years, the total tuition is going to be around $5,000 for 2 years. And then transfer to University of Florida, then you've got tuition at $6,300 for the next 2 years. So your total cost is going to be much lower. It's going to be about half the price, as if he goes to University of Florida for all 4 years. But
All right,
interestingly, yeah.
Nope,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, you know, when we look at all these numbers, and for those of you who are looking at, and I'm getting a couple private messages in, if you're
Okay.
looking at, you just want to get to the scholarships, then I invite you to click on the link, and there's lots of links specifically to the merit-based scholarships. So if you do want to cut ahead, we
Later.
totally, and you can go ahead and click on that stuff. All right, Ann, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, my main point with this is that these are the sticker prices, but my very far right column on each one of these little things is that, like, for example, if we look at University of Florida, 88% of the kids who go to University of Florida receive, look down below at University of Tampa on the bottom left, private four-year universities, 94% of those kids are getting a scholarship or grant, which takes away from the cost, the total cost of attendance. So this is just for me to show you there are sticker prices, but the majority of students who go to these colleges, you can see there's everything is over 50% of the percentage of students who are receiving scholarships or grants. So pretty much there's only a few kids that are paying full sticker price for college. I want to go back to the previous slide just because I want to click on this. So there's the sticker price or there's the net price. Sticker price is, you know, the price with no scholarships or grants. And then net price, I put this link here and I'm going to see if I can make it work, because this is going to be a big, if you take nothing else away except for this link, it's going to be, you're going to have learned something important. So this is a government site. So it's information that all colleges have to report, and it'll give you the net price of, so you just put your school's name in here. So does somebody want to throw the name of the school out?
I think we need to get someone to mute their phone. I think Tanya's iPhone might need to be muted. Tanya, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Ann.
All right, so University of what? What should I do?
Let's do University of Tampa. I like that one because you're looking at close to 100% of students receiving aid at 94%. Yep. That's unbelievable.
All right, so let's see. Why is it not going? Is it frozen? Oh, look at me. I certainly, I picked something that doesn't seem to work. Okay, well, it should work. It is not working.
Well, let's go ahead and go to the next one, because I'm sure that we have tons of information, and at some point that link will definitely work.
Okay.
And you know, this one's so important because so many of us think that, oh, we can't go to a private school. Well, just like you just saw, University of Tampa gives close to 94% of its students grants and scholarships and aid. And this one here, and just the rewards for being a good student are amazing.
Interestingly, most colleges give merit aid based on GPA or test scores. Almost every college has some kind of merit-based scholarship program. So the way you
what is that based on? Like, do you have to fill out something for that, for the private schools?
Some universities have a separate scholarship application, but that's something every website will tell you if there's a separate application or not.
Each school will, okay.
Each school will, right. So if you apply to University of Tampa, actually, they do not require any separate application. So if your student has a GPA of 3.8 and SAT of 1330, then they automatically fall right into that scholarship category where they'll get between $14,000 and $16,000 off of the tuition, which is $29,000. So right there, you've got 13,000. And if they come in with bright futures, that's another 6,000. So that brings it down to, what did I say? 13 minus 6 is 7,000. And then if they use this EASE, Effective Access to Student Education grant, they'll get another 3,000. So if they're a really good student, they're paying about $4,000 in tuition per year.
Can we talk about private schools that are out of state? Are they the same?
They're the same, yeah. So private schools don't care if you're in state or, well, yeah, for the most part, private schools don't care if you're in state or out of state. If your child goes to Georgia Tech, University of Michigan, University of California, then they're going to favor giving merit scholarships to their students that are in state.
Okay.
But if it's a private school, it often mostly doesn't matter if you're in state or out of state.
Okay.
And then interestingly, Ivy League colleges do not give merit-based scholarships. They look at your family's income, which is that CSS profile, and they will meet 100% of demonstrated need. So, and for the most part, if their tuition is 74,000 and your family makes 65,000 a year, then you've got full need and you end up not paying any money at all. Believe it or not, I did not believe that when I heard that, but it is true.
And Ann, I know that people just heard that and they heard $65,000 a year and they're like, I make more than that. So now what? How do we address those folks like myself? We're just in the middle. We've got smart kids, but we just don't quite qualify for the need base. So does that mean Ivy League is out the door?
Gosh, I wish I could share my screen, but I'm just going to verbally tell you, I was on the Stanford website to put together that slide. Get on Stanford Financial Aid website, which actually is a link later. You'll see. Actually, maybe I'll scoot over there and I'm going to show you that it's here. All right, so let me click on this. Let's hope this link works. Let's see. Because it gives you a grid. Here we go. So Stanford Financial Aid, how it works is,
did your link work?
Oh no, you don't see it?
Right, you have to switch to
that screen. So you just have to share that screen. Go back, share the screen, and then pick the screen that you want to share.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Oh goodness. Okay. Okay, here's Stanford Financial Aid, how aid works. Let's see, parent contribution. Okay. So it says here, 0 parent contribution for parents with income below 65,000. But like you said, there's tuition charges covered for parents with income below 150,000. So if you make up to 150,000, then your student will not pay tuition. You will pay for the cost of their dorm and their food, but not their tuition.
Okay, and I want to make sure I understood that. And I encourage everyone, you'll be able to click on these links once you go to the link that's posted in the chat. So all of these links will be live for you. It's just hard to maneuver all this stuff through Zoom. But Ann, I want to make sure I heard you right. Stanford is considering need-based for people who make $150,000 a year.
Yes.
Is that what you just said?
That is what I just said. Yes.
Okay, so that's what we really want to get across. So many people are just crossing off schools off their list because they think, oh, I make too much money, I'm not going to qualify for any aid. I think if you make $150,000, you're probably doing okay. But Stanford considers that where you're still going to get some assistance with your tuition. So I want to make sure of that. Sherry, I see you waving.
Yeah.
Are you saying hi?
I am wanting to add to that. Being a person who just went through filling out the CSS profile, you have to take into account it's not always how much you make paycheck wise, but your assets, they consider that part of your whole package, your
Exactly.
savings, all of that. So that 150, that yeah, I can get some money. You may not. I'm sorry to say.
Got it, got it.
Okay,
So-
but are you able to see this chart
No,
that I
and
have? No?
no,
You
if you go, you would need to
Okay, hold
Green
on, I'm doing it.
boxes?
to it.
Here it is. There we go. Okay, this is still Stanford, and this is
Yeah,
a better, this
Perfect.
is what I was looking for before. So just take a minute and look at the columns and figure out where your family income, and it says gross family income. And you'll see,
I mean, I'm
what the-
still seeing $245,000 and you're still getting some financial aid.
yeah, so if your family is greater than 245,000, you get an average scholarship and grant of 23,000.
So if you're less than 65,000, your average scholarship and grant is 78. So how do you get that though? Is there an application with a deadline? Like I don't see that. And I've got a senior. and
That's
I've
the CSS
contacted
profile. That's the CSS profile.
CSS profile. Okay, thank you.
But
And
this
a
is
lot
for that school. This is for Stanford.
Oh, this is okay. Each one is different. Okay.
Every school is different. Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and Stanford all have a grid just like they all do the same kind of thing. Obviously, the admission rate for Stanford, Harvard, Yale, and Princeton is between 5 and 6%. So they basically are saying if your family income is somewhere in that range and you can get your child in, they're going to help you pay most of the cost, even though the sticker price is 74,000 or 78,000, or actually it's 80 at this point. If you make less than 65,000, you can see they're going to give you a grant of 78,000.
Okay, if your child's accepted.
If
they're-
your child's
they
accepted.
get in, correct.
Got you. I got you. Okay.
And so now, Anne, we may have some parents that say, okay, well, maybe my income is within the bracket, but maybe my student can't quite get into those schools because like you said, it's only an admission rate of, 5 or 6%. So I was wondering if we could go to slide number 9, where it talks about out-of-state merit scholarships for high achieving students. And a lot of these schools are, schools that more kids can get into, but that still offer you aid.
Right. So out-of-state merit school, this is just a couple samples. There are so many. And in fact, Sherry, we've got from the Cube, we have a couple resources that we put together for merit scholarships. We actually have a handout that's very long, but we can get it to you if you want it, that describes full ride scholarships, full ride merit scholarships at universities across the United States. So this is only 4, this is a sample of 4. And there's 3,000 colleges across the United States. And there are full ride scholarships out there.
For merit-based.
Merit-based.
And
Yes.
so that
Really?
means
Do you have any
regardless
for
of income.
NYU by any chance? NYU in
No,
there at all?
NYU does not have good financial aid.
Oh, good to know. Good to know.
I have a
I
real
tell you
quick
what,
question
Ann,
about that.
I know that you mentioned that document is long. Is there a way we can get that to Amy Marie and she can post it on the PTSA website? Sherry? Uh-oh, I see your hand.
Yep, I can send it to her. I was just
Perfect.
chatting back to her.
Oh, perfect, perfect. So thank you, Anne, for making everyone know that particular resource is together. And I just want to stop for a moment. I want you all to understand, because Anne is so modest. She actually created the Cube, and she really does this on a volunteer basis. So we're all just volunteers who just are, I know for me, I'm just passionate about other kids being able to go to school as well as my child. a lot of us have saved money and we're going to have the money for our kids, but a lot of people haven't. And a lot of people, you know, wait till sophomore, junior, senior year, and then they're like, oh, we need to pay for college. That's real. So that's why we wanted to invent the Cube, have this type of a night. We're all volunteers and mom's just trying to figure it out. I see a couple dads.
Thank you so
hello
much.
to dads.
Thank you so much, really.
Yeah,
Oh, no
thank you.
problem. And so once we figure out what people want, then we're going to do our best to try to get it posted on the website, posted on Canvas, posted wherever it is that we can possibly post things. And I just want to speak for a real quick second about HBCUs. That stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities. A lot of your HBCUs, in addition to other schools as well, when you fill out that application, it automatically is going to tell you some of the merit-based scholarships that you're already eligible for. So that's another reason why, you know, you don't want to shy away from filling out these particular applications to some of these private schools, some of these out-of-state schools, because you'd be surprised if you have decent grades and an okay SAT score, sometimes you're able to get in. And I like to point out what you have here on this slide. The GPA is 3.3, the SAT is 1140, and you may qualify for some things. So I just think that's important to point out. Also to point out for HBCUs, they are for everyone. Of course, they're called Historically Black Colleges and Universities, but it may be something that you want to explore as well for your child, because again, there are many merit-based scholarships. All right, Ann, I'm sorry. I know we were going to go over University of Alabama as well.
Well, yeah, and I'm not going to go too much into this, but this is just a sampling. University of Alabama, they basically, Alabama and Auburn are really notorious for trying to like steal the smart kids from Florida. So they're willing to give out merit scholarships for kids that are coming from out of state because they want smart kids at their school. So this is what they do. They give a scholarship that's valued at $26,000 a year, which covers a good amount of their tuition and makes it, you know, comparable. So for some people, if they don't have, actually they would have bright futures with these numbers, but anyway, some kids like to go out of state, and there's a reason that with those scores that they're going to choose to go to Alabama. Sometimes it's because they love football. You know, Alabama seems to be doing well in that department. Oglethorpe is in Atlanta. I toured it like 2 years ago or so, and they had the most interesting program where they're inviting smart kids to come from out of state also. And they, you know, they have this criteria of a GPA and an ACT score, but depending on what state you come from, that if your child stayed in state and went to the flagship university for the in-state public university, that's the same tuition they're going to pay at Oglethorpe because they want those smart kids. And then
Wow.
Georgia Tech has a bazillion scholarships, but I just wanted to highlight this one. It's called the Stamps Presidential Scholarship, full room, board, tuition, plus $12,000 to, you know, do study abroad or to do all kinds of, you know, research and things. And they also, I didn't even put that in there, they throw in a laptop, $1,100 to buy computers. So there are lots of different out-of-state schools that want to pull the smart kids from Florida, and it's worth looking out of state sometimes.
So Ann, let's take a quick break here. I want to make sure that everyone knows again what the Cube is, what our function is, how to find us. I'm hoping, and if you have not been to Canvas and the Student Services page, reach out to us, because we want everyone to really understand all of this information is at your fingertips through Canvas. But as a parent, you do need to set up a parent account, or you need to just get with your kids and say, put me on Canvas, and click on the Student Services information. That's where you're going to get almost everything that we're telling you. They give you scholarship information, they give you deadline information. You know, we're not trying to hold this information to ourselves. We really want it out there, but we need parents to understand where to go. So if you're not on Canvas yet, please message Sherry or Ann or myself so that we can make sure you know how to get there. Yes, we are recording this session. I see from someone who's asking. I also want to make sure that you know about Twitter. Cube has a Twitter account, so you can certainly follow us on the Cube. And I think that Sherry's getting ready to put that in the chat box of how exactly to find us.
It's
And let me
also
see.
at the very bottom of this slide, which I'm hoping, can you see the slide?
Oh yeah, yep, we see
Okay.
that.
Okay, so the Twitter is there, and then the very bottom bullet point is how you can help your child sign up to meet with a parent volunteer from the Cube.
And that's done through a sign up genius, and we actually post that out there once again through Canvas, and students can sign up for whatever time is convenient for them if they see a volunteer name in that particular block. And we're going to start giving out prizes, so your kids may be entered into a drawing to win a PDQ gift card, some other gift cards that might be available. So we're really trying to encourage the kids to still come to the Cube even during COVID. All right, so we have our Sign Up Genius covered, we have our Canvas covered, we have our Twitter covered. Before we move on, are there any other questions? Rebecca has been amazing in participating. Are there any other questions? If you want to put them in the chat, or if you want to come off mute and ask a quick question, this would be the time to do so.
I have a real quick question about merit-based scholarships.
Hello.
Okay. Yes.
So a big trend I've been seeing with applications is that many colleges are disregarding those test scores altogether. And I was just wondering how, if at all, the pandemic is affecting how they're looking at those for merit-based scholarships.
The colleges that I've heard talk about this are if they've gone test optional. As you know, most colleges have gone test optional with the exception of Florida.
Florida, right. None
Yes,
of our
all
schools.
the Florida state universities did not go test optional. So any of their merit scholarships, they still are looking at your scores on your ACT or SAT, and they are not really making a lot of allowance for COVID, except that obviously there's huge numbers of kids who were unable to take an SAT at all. And, you know, in Hillsborough County, you were given one as a junior, and there's a lot of kids in Hillsborough have taken an SAT, but in Miami, for example, those kids, they couldn't even sign up to take one on a Saturday. So they're really at a big disadvantage. But so in Florida, there is still emphasis on your SAT and ACT score. But outside of Florida, there's a lot of flexibility now because of COVID, and they are taking into account they're looking much more holistically at kids, at their activities, their commitment, their passion for other things outside of school, their GPA, the rigor of their coursework, all those other things that go into making you a really good candidate. And they're assessing those at a higher level and downplaying your SAT or ACT score.
And Ann, I remember hearing that favorite word that all kids love, your essays are really holding a lot of weight now as well. So that would be a whole nother financial aid night that we could do if there's interest on how to write the perfect essay, because it's not just a laundry list of things that you've done. There are little nuances that go into really portraying yourself positively and in a way that can attract some of these schools that are going test optional and potentially weighing your essay a little heavier. So I hope that helps. Any other questions before we move on? And we're only on page 10. And what time is it? It's 6:40. All right.
All right, you're good at keeping me on task, Michelle. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go back up. We did the sticker price, and then we did the cost of private and public, and then we talked about the out-of-state merit scholarships. Okay, so now we're on step 2 of my 4-step process. Step 2 is fill out your financial aid forms. This is what you do next. This is what you have to do. So this is the most important one, is the FAFSA. Right now, Robinson, at 37.8% of seniors have filled out their FAFSA. That's 1/3 of seniors has filled out a FAFSA.
That
At
means
this time last year,
2/3 have not.
yes, that
And we
means
need
2/3
to
have
do
not. Yes,
Is
so
that
it means
just Robinson? Are you
That's
talking only
just Robinson. Yep, that's just at Robinson.
okay, so
Oh, okay, because parents really need to help though.
Hmm.
yes, so
You
the
know, not
FAFSA,
just the children, but yeah.
right, yes. The FAFSA is, it's jointly filled out by, it's a little bit of the student and then it's mostly the parent. The FAFSA is, let me see if I can do this. If I can click on, hold on. I'm gonna just real quick, just so you can see what the FAFSA looks like. And I know that you can't see that. So now I'm gonna go.
Don't delete
Okay.
your square. Oh, there we go.
Did I do it? Okay,
Yep.
so this is the FAFSA, and you know, we're not gonna do one obviously, but this is where you start. You know, we've got some videos that you're gonna, that I haven't given to Amy Marie yet, but I will get those about how to begin the FAFSA, how to get your FSA ID. Basically, it takes about 30 minutes maybe to fill out the FAFSA. The student starts it. That takes the student maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then it takes the parents the other time. I don't know how much you want me to go into the FAFSA. I've got lots of experience with it, having had 3 kids in college, and also just helping out over the years with other people.
And
I'm
we have a quick
sorry, I have
question.
one question.
Yes,
So if my daughter is going to school this fall, 2021, the FAFSA asks for tax returns from 2019.
yes.
I lost my job in February of 2020. So the
Yes.
information that I put on the FAFSA really isn't correct.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to, and there's really no phone number to call. So I called a couple of the colleges and said, how do I update it? I mean, I'm going to get another job and there will be money, but for 2020, which is this year, the financial situation is different than what I put on the FAFSA form.
Mhm.
I don't think you can update it.
No, you can't. So
Okay.
this is, you're not unique because
Okay.
with COVID, many
I know.
people have lost
Yep.
their jobs. So financial aid departments are a lot more sympathetic than they have been in the past. But what has to happen is you have to fill it out just the way they tell you to. So 2019, and
Okay.
then you fill it out, you submit it. It'll look like you can afford a lot more college than you can. What
Right.
you do then is you basically submit it to the college, and once your child is in, you know, to the college
Accepted.
that they and accepted, and you're now trying to figure out whether
Right, you
you're going to
afford
get a
it.
financial aid package from them within the first couple of days after getting accepted. You're going to get
Yep.
an email saying how much financial aid they're going to give you, and it won't be enough because they don't know that you lost your job. So it's at that point, and do it as quickly as you can. You
Okay.
start making a phone call. You call the
Call
financial aid
financial
office,
aid. Thank you. Okay.
and
And
it's
see-
called
Got
the
it.
professional judgment, and they're allowed to adjust your financial aid based on your circumstances, but they can't do it at the federal level. They have to do it at the school level.
I understand. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, sure. And I think that that's a really good point to highlight why we at the beginning talked about sticker price. It literally, that's the sticker price. So like I said, when you go to buy a new car, yeah, it's that price on there that you hate, but when you leave, hopefully you're getting a better price. So I love that Rebecca brought that up because obviously during COVID, incomes have vastly changed. And yeah, you did the FAFSA, yeah, you made more money then, but it's a phone call. Don't be afraid to negotiate and ask and explain your situation. Sometimes that can even be part of the essays that students are writing. I had a quick question, Anne. Someone was wanting to know, do they need to fill out the FAFSA even if they don't have, you know, a high GPA or high test scores or anything like that? And my answer is yes. What do you think? And why should they still fill out the FAFSA, even though maybe they just now realize they wanted to go to school?
Well, that's all the reason to do it. Okay, you pretty much have to fill out the FAFSA for all kinds of reasons. But the FAFSA is not related at all. FAFSA is only about your family's income. It has nothing to do, they don't ask about grades. They don't ask about scores. The FAFSA is 100% financial. And so what that does is it qualifies you for need-based financial aid. The big question that so let's say your family income is, you know, 45,000 and your child's grades are a 2.2 and they're going to go to community college, you know, or what, they're going to probably not need a huge amount of money. You still do the FAFSA because you might actually qualify based on your family circumstance for some money to help pay for college. And so why not? It doesn't matter what your child's GPA or their scores are. It's all about finding that extra bit of money. And the federal government's got so much extra money. You can see just looking at Robinson, most kids aren't even filling out their FAFSA. So there's a lot of extra money at the federal level that they're looking to give out to students who need it based on their finances at home. So absolutely. And there's a million other reasons to fill out a FAFSA, but are there more questions about the FAFSA?
No, there's a couple coming in about essay writing strategies. And I think that is certainly something we're going to have to address
Okay,
at some
we can
point.
do a night on that too. That's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, Anne, before we move on from this slide, can we make sure we talk about number 2, because that's your Bright Futures one.
Okay, so the Florida financial aid application is the state of Florida. So the FAFSA is the federal government. Florida financial aid is just for Florida, and they have 13 different grants and scholarships that they give out to students, not just Bright Futures. They have a whole other array, and if we have time, we'll go through them. But the one most people know about is Bright Futures. The problem with Bright Futures is that it's very hard to qualify. You have to have relatively high scores on the SAT and ACT. So some people say, well, I don't have to fill out this FFAA because my ACT score is 23, but you do, because the FFAA will qualify you for the other state of Florida grants and scholarships.
And can we also, and we probably won't have time to extensively talk about it, and I don't know if you were going to cover this in one of your other slides, but I really want to make sure everyone understands that Bright Futures has 3 different levels.
Yeah, if you want to scoot to Bright Futures, we can do, or should we just go in order?
Girl, let's go ahead and stay in order.
Okay, we're going to stay in order.
Can I
Okay,
ask
so we're going to.
What is the FFAA? Is that part of the Bright Futures?
Yes, so it's the application. It's number 2 here on the slide.
Okay.
FFAA is the Florida financial aid application to access Florida specific scholarships and grants, including Bright Futures.
Okay, what's the deadline for that? Do you know?
Yes, I looked it up because it's complicated. It basically, you're good if you fill it out before your child graduates. So by the time, by May, whatever.
Okay.
But the official date to fill it out, that you have to have it filled out, is by August. But don't wait, because by the time,
Okay.
But your student has to have completed their, gotten the GPA and their test scores and their community service by the time they graduate.
Got you. Okay.
So that's why, just do it before your child graduates.
So that's
the
really
link,
the FFAA is the Bright Futures paperwork.
Yes. So I'm gonna
so much more as well.
I'm gonna just show you real quick. I clicked on the link and this is what comes up. Okay. So this is the FFAA.
Okay.
The link that comes up, and this website is not well done, because the way you fill out your application is right here where it says create a student account, and that tiny little link right here.
Right.
Create
Okay.
a student account. That's what the students have to click on. So I'm clicking on it.
Right.
Can you see it, or do I have to?
Yeah,
No, I can see it.
You
Yep.
see it.
Okay. Yeah. So it's basically, they start off with social security number, and then, you fill it out, and then it's a couple pages. It's not long. It takes 10 minutes. It's really short.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
But Anne, real quick, because you were on, that's one of my favorite sites to show, because once you fill out the FFAA, then aren't you automatically, for the state scholarship and grant programs, once you fill out the FFAA, how does that work with being able to then apply for all of those? It's a long list of additional scholarships.
So these
Right.
are scholarships and grants that the state of Florida is gonna help you pay for college. And they each one, I have another slide on this, but each one has different criteria. They target different students. And actually, most of them require you to fill out a FAFSA, which is for federal money, but they use the FAFSA in order to determine whether your student has financial need. So people making $500,000, and it shows up on their FAFSA as their family makes $500,000, they're not going to qualify for a lot of these because these are both need-based and merit-based. And for some of them, for example, the Jose Marti is for students that come from, have a Hispanic background or a Latinx background. Either one parent, both parents, or the child being born in Central, South America, Mexico, or some of the Caribbean islands. So that's one example. And they have to have a 3.0 GPA and they have to have financial need.
What I do like is it's just one application.
But it's one application, one FAFSA and one FFAA, and you're good. Okay.
Are there any other
Gotcha.
questions around
Thank you
that?
so much.
Because I know it gets confusing when you hear about FAFSA, then you hear about FFAA. It's really not that confusing. Long story short, you have to do them both. I mean, that's just really it. It's for
Those
Florida
are the
schools
primary ones, and then CSS is out of state.
and private schools.
That's
Well,
how
like
yeah,
University of,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yes, private schools out of state.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
University of Miami requires CSS, Stetson requires CSS, because they're private. So it's mostly private. Although some out of state publics also require the CSS. It's just it's more complex. It asks a lot more about all your assets and, the buildings you own and all the stuff that most people don't have.
But do they
so-
get permission to go into your checking account and all of that?
I don't think so. I think you just have to report it
You
and
just
be
have
honest.
to report it, and they
Yeah.
can ask you for more information if needed. Something like that.
Yeah, they don't delve into that, but they assume your
Gonna be
information
honest.
is, yeah, pretty much. Okay, so it's really number 1 and 2. Most people do number 1 and 2. That's all. They don't do anything else. Okay, so the next slide. So this is just common questions. What is the FAFSA? We've already gone over that. How much does it cost to complete the FAFSA? Anyone?
Free.
It's because that's the first word.
Free.
And if anybody asks you for money to complete the FAFSA, then you're being scammed
Mhm.
because it's free. Is it just used to apply for federal aid? Any answer, class?
No.
Okay.
Correct. No.
What else is it used for?
Anyone?
Okay.
Anyone?
I'll give you the answer. It's used for state aid. It's also used for what I call institutional aid, meaning it comes from the college. The colleges will give you need-based aid also, or merit-based aid, but you also have to have need.
Well, here's an important piece of information. When you're filling out the FAFSA, you do have to have all the colleges that your child wants to apply to and their number, whatever their number is. I put 10 colleges that my daughter was applying to with whatever that number is, so that college can go ahead and pull the information from my FAFSA application. Is that correct?
That is correct. You don't have to have the number, because when you fill it out, you just write the name of the college and then the number will pop up. So your point is absolutely correct, that pretty close to the beginning of your FAFSA, you have to put in the colleges that you're going to be sending your FAFSA to. So you should know what colleges that your child is applying to when you're filling out your FAFSA.
And the other piece of information is I think that you can do 10 colleges without any fee. Like 10 is the normal amount. I don't know what happens after 10. My daughter only did 10, but it said if you were going to do over 10, then you needed to do something else on the FAFSA. but I didn't
Okay.
need to do that because my daughter didn't do over 10.
Yeah, no. So 10 is the number of spaces they have, but there's no fee because what you do then, you submit it to those 10, then you get back into your FAFSA and you take out those 10 and you put in another 10, and then you send it to those colleges. It doesn't cost, and it allows you to do that. You can make those kinds of changes.
Okay, thank you.
And I have another quick question. How soon do we need to apply for Bright Futures and Florida Financial Aid? Did we fill it out junior year starting or end of sophomore year? We're not really sure what you may have done in class, but I know, Ann, you just went over the fact that they need to do it now if they're a senior.
Yeah, they have to do it before they graduate. The deadline to complete it, I'm going to tell you, even though it's not true, that it's at graduation, even though you can fill it out after they graduate, but don't wait. So
Right.
you should fill it out by the time
It
they graduate.
opens October 1st, and I think it's first come, first serve. And my mistake was that I waited until December.
I'm not sure about, you know what, yes, you're right. It is better to do it sooner because state money does run out. Federal money does not run out. So the Pell Grant money is still going to be there even if you submit your FAFSA in May. You will
Okay,
still
thank
get a
you.
Pell Grant. But,
Okay, thank you. Okay.
but the Florida money does run out, and there are a couple of those grants and scholarships by the state of Florida that are challenge grants. That means the university matches the money, and once the university runs out of money to match it, they're not going to give out that Jose Marti scholarship. That's a challenge grant. So it's subtle, all these differences, but for sure earlier is better. So the question was, could you fill it out sophomore year or junior year? No, you have to wait until October 1st of senior year. So if you have a senior right now, you can do it tonight. If you have a junior, you have to wait until they're a senior, and October 1st, you can get on that website and fill it out. So yes, sooner is better than later. The thing is, yeah, so it is complicated, but for sure, if you have a choice and if you can remember and even put it in your planner right now, October 1st, if you could fill out your FAFSA when your child is a senior and also do your FFAA, you're going to be golden if you're going to stay in state.
And I'm getting another question about grades, and I think we need to make sure that everyone understands your FAFSA and your FFAA are financial applications and information. I'm assuming it doesn't ask for grades and transcripts and okay, that's what I thought. So the answer to your question, and I'll retype it to you in the chat. No, you don't have to put any type of grades or anything in the FFAA or the FAFSA.
Yeah, so everything on this step 2, fill out financial aid forms, all 1 through 4, those are just financial, nothing about grades, nothing about scores. All right. Bullet point number 4, what if your family makes $500,000 a year? Why would you do a FAFSA? I'm going to answer. The reason you would is that you want your child to be in the pile that's being considered for merit scholarship. And sometimes schools need to know your financial status in order to give your child a merit scholarship. Because if you are going to qualify for a Pell Grant and you're going to get $5,000 from a Pell Grant because your family income is low enough, then they may choose not to give your child the merit money. They'll give it to another child. But if you don't qualify for a Pell Grant and you get no need-based money, in order to lure them to their school because they want your child because he's really smart or really talented. So they're going to throw on this merit money, but they can only do that if they know your financial situation. So you really, even if your family income is high, you should fill out a FAFSA. And the deadline, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you're typing questions in the chat and we haven't answered your questions, resend them, because that's our goal tonight. It'd be great if you would just turn off your phone, if you come off mute and just ask us, but if you don't want to, that's fine. Continue to just type things in the chat. And if you don't hear us answer, just make sure you type it again so that we can see it.
Yeah, our point is not to rush through all of this information. Really, if you have questions, if you're kind of lost, because I remember when I first learned this, it's complicated, and I really welcome questions.
And one more question about the FAFSA, because I know that families are sensitive about their information, but they need help. Where is another way they can go to get help with the FAFSA? I know that it would be great if the Cube or Mr. Clay, or it would be wonderful if we could call parents and talk to everyone and help them with it. But unfortunately, we can't. But here's a phone number that people can call to get personalized help. That's the FAFSA helpline.
I've called them many times and they answer. So if you get stuck and you're not sure how to answer something, they will answer the phone and give you good answers. The other place is HCC is actually having some financial aid nights, virtual. I think they're all virtual. Yeah. So get on, maybe Google, I don't know the dates, but Google HCC financial aid information, and they might have it posted on their website, but HCC does it. I know St. Pete College has all kinds of workshops for FAFSA. But many people, when they're filling out their FAFSA and they know their child is going to be applying to USF, they might call the financial aid office there. They're very busy people, but and that's why I like this 800 number a little bit better, because they're set up, you know, that's the way they're set up to answer the phone and answer your questions.
So we do want to make sure that the Cube is here to make sure we can point people in the right direction. You know, I wish we had a 50 million volunteers where we could handhold everyone, but we just want to at least make sure people know where they can go to get started. All right, and I think we've covered FAFSA. Do we want to go ahead and go to page 12, your list of state of Florida financial aid options?
Yes, yes. Okay, so FAFSA is for federal. The FFAA is for Florida, which we've already talked a little bit about. So this is the list that you saw on the right-hand side of that web page I showed you. This is the list of all of them. And I'm not going to go, so I did 2 slides because there's so many of them. I'm happy to talk about each one, but I'm going to tell you the ones that are the most common are okay, so the first generation matching grant program, again, is a matching program, meaning that they do run out of money. But it has to do with a student who, on their form, they say what the highest level of education that their parents achieved. And first generation means that neither one of their parents achieved a bachelor's degree. So they can have an associate's degree or a certification, but if they did not get a bachelor's degree, then that student is considered first generation. And that means that they would qualify for this grant. The thing I can't tell you is how much money comes with each one of these, but it's generally somewhere between $500 and $2,000, let's just say. This EASE grant is automatic and it's merit-based and not need-based. So it's if you apply to a private school in Florida. So all of these are just if you stay in the state of Florida. You do not get any of these if you go out of state. So if you apply to University of Tampa, for example, and I showed you that on the earlier slide, where I said the effective access to student education EASE is worth $2,841 if you go to University of Tampa. That means if you're an in-state student, you 100%, and you're going to University of Tampa, you will absolutely 100%, it's not need-based. If you go to University of Tampa, they will give you an extra $2,841. It's kind of like a treat for people that are staying in-state.
And I just want to reiterate what you just said, because that one is a merit-based one. So again, that's another really important reason why you want to go ahead and fill out your FFAA and your FAFSAs. Because yes, the majority of it is need-based income, but every now and then, some of them are merit-based. And if you're eligible for Bright Futures, well, then you may be eligible for some of these other scholarships that are merit-based.
And all of this, so you don't have to remember anything I'm telling you, because all you have to do is get on the Florida financial aid website that you'll have a link to now that you're going to have this PDF as accessible to you. And you can read about each one of these grants or scholarships has about a 4-page pamphlet that describes exactly what they are. The frustrating thing is they don't tell you how much it is. That I wish they did. So this one, I'm just going to highlight a few of them. Mary McLeod Bethune Scholarship. It is extra money for students that are applying to historically Black colleges and universities in Florida, and just 4 of them. There are more than these, but FAMU in Tallahassee, Edward Waters, I'm not sure where Edward Waters is, Florida Memorial, which is in Miami, and one other, a Bethune-Cookman in Daytona Beach. So if your child applies to one of those 4, they're going to get extra money from this Mary McLeod Bethune scholarship if they did their FFA.
Edward Waters is in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Oh, good. Yeah. So it's a nice combination. Talented 20 admissions program. Okay. Most people have not heard of this. Let me ask Sherry, have you heard of Talented 20?
Sherry might be typing away in the chat.
You
I
have,
heard
okay.
of it, but I don't understand it.
Okay, and Michelle, have you heard of it?
I've never heard of it. What is that?
Okay, it's not a scholarship, but it's a special program for students that graduate from a public high school in Florida. It doesn't come with money, but if you're in the top 20% of your graduating class, okay, so out of the seniors, if you're in the top 20% and you apply to a state university, so out of the 12 state university system universities here in Florida, if you apply to one of those 12 and you're in your top 20%, then if you don't get in, you actually have to apply to 3 and you don't get in, they will guarantee you a spot in one of those 12. So it doesn't come with money, and you may not get to go to the state university that you want to go to, but they will make sure you are accepted at one of the 12, even if you've already been rejected. You know, like UF, it's so hard to get in there. So even if you're in the top 20% of your class, there's a good chance you're not going to get into UF. And what if you try to get into FSU and you don't get in? And what if you try to get into UCF and you don't get in? Then you qualify. They're going to make sure you get into one of the other ones.
Oh, wow,
I know it's
that's really interesting.
It's weird, but it's also just a really nice little perk. That,
yeah, it's a space saver, basically, in order to keep top talent in our state.
Exactly.
You know, the last thing you would want is, you know, you can't get into your Florida schools, but you want to stay in Florida and you're in the top 20% of your class. Well, now you will definitely be able to get into one of them at least.
And I won't, these are less frequent ones, but the top one is a new one, and it's for kids whose parents are migrant farm workers or themselves. And it's merit-based and need-based. All right, so I'm going to go to the next slide because
real quick, Ann, I do want to remind everyone how your kids can sign up for the Cube. And we're going to put that Sign Up Genius in the chat. This is so much information that we're throwing at you in 2 hours, but you can still get your children to sign up on our Sign Up Genius through the Cube, and they will be able to have a one-on-one visit with a Cube volunteer. They can, especially if you've seen this presentation and you have a million questions, then your kid can come sit with us virtually, and we can specifically go through your specific questions as best that we can. And Sherry's going to put the Sign Up Genius link in the chat, and it's in the PowerPoint, and it's on Canvas, it's everywhere, including our Twitter feed. So we really just want to make sure that parents and students know that tonight is not the end all be all, that you can still get a one-on-one virtual visit to go over this type of information. All righty, Ann, are we in, where are we now? Bright Futures specifically?
Yes,
Oh
we're
yeah, I
talking about
love
Bright
to talk
Futures.
about these three.
Yes. Oh gosh, I love Bright Futures. I guess it's hard for me to know exactly, how to go about talking about this, but there's 4 different kinds of Bright Futures. The very most lucrative one is the top one, the Florida Academic Scholars, and that is should I try to pull up that document, or should I just talk about it, Michelle?
No, go ahead and try to pull it up. You're talking about the qualifications document where you have to have the 1330 and the 3 point. Is that the one you're talking about, Ann?
Yeah, so let me see if I can. Oh,
While we're looking for that, I'll just kind of talk through, like Ann was saying, to get 100% tuition, that's the really high one. But 75% of your tuition paid, that's still a pretty good opportunity at your Florida schools. And the requirements for the medallion scholarship is a lot lower. It's still, you still have to be a good student, but it is a little bit more attainable. There are also vocational Bright Futures opportunities. So let's say your kid doesn't want to go to a 4-year college or a 2-year college, but they want to be able to go into a particular type of a vocation. Well, then there's still an opportunity to get money for that as well. All right, Ann, I see you have it all pulled up.
oh, good. Yes, you always have to tell me what's on the screen just in case I don't have the right thing.
It's hard to tell.
Okay, so Bright Futures. So you'll see hopefully it's really clearly written, but if you look at the second column, Florida Academic Scholars, FAS, it requires 3.5 weighted GPA, and the weighted it's the child academic classes. So it's English, math, science, social studies, whatever the last one is. But it's not driver's ed, and it's not Hope, and it's not electives, it's not art. It is their academic classes and weighted, with the extra score for AP or honors or IB. So Bright Futures has their own way of recalculating GPA, so it's not necessarily their district or their state GPA. Bright Futures recalculates it. Basically a 3.5 weighted GPA, an SAT of 1330, or an ACT of 29, and then they have to do their 100 community service hours.
And we're in the first column. We're in the Florida Academic Scholar, and we're going down just so that you can kind of follow along, because there's a lot on this grid.
And what's kind of annoying is I can't get it all on here, but so just keep in mind the column we're talking about is the second column here, but that the FAS will cover the award amount is 100% of tuition and fees plus $300 for additional educational expenses. Okay, so if your child qualifies with all these numbers and they go to USF and they live at home, they're going to college for free. They're just going to live with you. You're going to feed them. And they'll get to their classes and they will go for free.
Now, if they choose to go to school and they don't want to live at home, then at least their full tuition will be covered. And then you just have to feed them and pay for them to live somewhere. But that certainly is, it's a break. It's a way to get some money. And I had a quick question, because I thought I heard earlier something about it running out. Is that, or did I mishear that when we were talking about filling out your financial aid thing?
Yeah, Bright Futures money does not. It doesn't run out. No, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't confuse anybody with what I said. But Bright Futures money does not run out, but the state of Florida, in funding these matching grants that are part of the other 12 that are out there, when they're matching grants, that money can run out.
Okay,
but that's only a few out of them.
But if you get Bright Futures, you get it. Okay, someone wants us to scroll down and show the award amounts. It's not a particular number because every single school charges a different price. But for your Florida schools, you're going to get 100% of your tuition paid if you meet the grade requirements and service hour requirements. But now let's go to the second one where, you know, it's not as high, 3.0 weighted, 1210 SAT, 25 ACT. Now your community service hours, you still got to pretty much do those, 75 hours, but you're still getting 75% of your tuition. And this is for, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Ann, is it for 5 years or 4 years that kids can get this?
Okay, it's for 4 years. And the other thing I want to make sure everybody understands is that it's for the public universities. So it covers 100% for the FAS, 100% of tuition applicable fees for the 12 state university system schools, not University of Tampa, not University of Miami, not Stetson, not Eckerd, not St. Leo's, only the 12 state universities. So UF, USF, FSU, FIU, you know, all of those. So if you qualify for Bright Futures, the top one, FAS, and you go to a private school like University of Tampa, they will mostly, they don't have to, but they do take about the same amount, which is about 6,200, and they'll apply it to the tuition. So they'll reduce the tuition by that much. So it's nowhere near 100% if you go to a private school. It's only if you go to the public schools.
Now, we do have someone who pointed out, although the scholarship lasts for all 4 years, you do, of course, have to maintain a certain GPA. You do, of course, have to have a certain course load. So, you know, it's the same thing. You have to still do well. It's just like how you had to do well in high school. You have to continue wanting to succeed in college in order to be able to keep your scholarship. All right,
And
so the next one.
I do want to point out one more thing, though, because for the FMS, Florida Medallion Scholar, if you scroll down, you know, let's say your child has a 3.2 weighted GPA and all the right scores and everything. The award amount, if they go to USF, is 75% of the tuition. So tuition is 6,000. It's going to cover about 4,600 of it, and then you as a parent pays the rest. Okay.
Let me ask this: for HCC, does it cover? Would it cover HCC?
You beat me to the punch. Okay. So if your child goes, so what I want to say is if your child qualifies for an FMS, but he chooses to go to St. Pete College or HCC or one of the 28 two-year colleges, this is brand new this year, brand spanking new, that if they get an FMS, it'll cover 100% of the two-year college. Okay, not 75% of the two-year college, 100% for 2 years.
Okay, say that again, Ann, because you said that this is a brand new program.
It's a brand new thing. It's not even on my list. I'm sorry. Plus, it's too complicated to write it down. So if they qualify, let's say your child has a Florida Medallion Scholarship.
Okay.
Because their GPA was a 3.2 and not a 3.5. Okay.
Oh,
So,
okay. I thought I heard you say 3.2, and that's where I was confused.
I'm
okay.
just saying
so
because of their
3.2.
Yeah. But their scores are great. They did their community service. So when they're thinking about how are they going to save the most money, if they start at HCC and go for the first 2 years, instead of 75% of the HCC tuition, this is new. If it's an FMS, it'll pay 100% just for those first 2 years.
Oh, that's amazing. And the other
then
good
when they
thing about
go
this,
to US, yeah, then when they go to USF, then it pays 75% of the last 2 years. Okay.
oh, wow. Well, and remember, we just learned about the honors program with HCC. So if they get that particular award and they do go to HCC, they're going to be eligible for the honors program at HCC. And there are so many benefits to being in that program. When we met with them, they were actually talking about not only do they help kids transfer into the four-year universities, but they also have some students who've gone on to schools out of state, full tuition. They also have had students that travel with them. So if you do have a student that meets the requirements and they want to stay at home and they want to go to HCC, make sure they get into the honors program. And I'm going to try to figure out where that link is, so that more people can understand that HCC has a specific honors program where you get perks and benefits from being in that program.
And you're right, that if a student fits the criteria to get an FMS, you know, the Florida Medallion, then it's very likely they would qualify for the honors program at HCC.
Real quick, and too, I'm getting a lot of questions about verification of the 100+ hours. I know that the district recently switched over to Profferfish, and I believe that's how you say it. And I
Yeah.
know that IB students have managed back. So, you know, you're going to have to log in. If you're an IB parent, make sure your kids are logging in, and that's where you'll get your confirmation of how many hours they've done. Profferfish, another way you need to log in, but I know that there's been some things where some stuff got transferred, some stuff didn't. I think an email came out today that everything should be transferred into Profferfish. But if your child does not have an account, or you don't have an account, you don't know what that is, then you probably need to reach out to Mr. Clay. And again, his information is in student services. And, you know, there's also a lot of resources about Profferfish that are out there on the district websites, because it is something new that they've just started providing all of the schools in Hillsborough County. So you may not have heard of it. It's going to be talked about in the Student Services Department on Canvas, and Mr. Clay will also have some information for that. Amy Marie is amazing. She just put in the chat the honors program information about HCC. That is one of, if you don't learn a thing else tonight, but you have a student that can qualify for some of the Bright Futures opportunities, specifically what Ann just mentioned, a 3.2 weighted GPA. The honors program at HCC is amazing from the things that I've heard from them. So it's really, really beneficial. If they're going to do HCC, get them in the higher level honors program so that they can have special help when they do want to go ahead and continue to their 4-year university, and they help with helping to find funding and scholarships and grants. So it's just a really good program. All righty, Ann, what page are we on? Are we on page 17?
All right, so we're
or did
still
we-
on Bright Futures. Real
Yeah,
quick,
that's right.
I'm gonna mention the 2 vocational ones. They apply to kids that are taking career and technical education classes. And at Robinson, those are culinary is one, auto mechanics is another. So there's a couple of the electives that kids choose to take that go in a sequence. And if they take 3 classes, career education courses, and they, you know, and you can read all this criteria. I'm not going to go into all this detail, but basically they then can earn extra money that's Bright Futures money. So they're not the academic ones. These are the vocational ones, and they have to do with the kids who've taken these career education courses, and then they meet all these other criteria, and then they get certain amount per credit hour when they go on to post-secondary school, which is not always a college or a university. Sometimes it's a technical college. So if you want more information about this, you can look it up on that Florida Financial Aid website that we looked at before, and it will go into tons of detail about it. It's just really complicated, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. All right, so let me go back.
And if there are any other questions about HCC or any other questions about Bright Futures, definitely put it in the chat or come off mute and ask us. Certainly want to make sure that everyone understands that tonight, and that you understand in order to get it, you have to go to the Florida Student Financial Aid site. That is very, very important to know and important to do. And then by filling that out, you're going to automatically be looked at for some of the other scholarships and grants and things that are available if you do it nice and early. Levels of qualifications, let's see. Yeah, that is a very good point too. Some of the GPA and SAT scores, she's saying, we have a parent saying that it can increase. In fact, it actually just did increase, I think.
It did 2 years ago.
All righty, so
Okay,
page
we ready for the
17.
next slide? Okay.
Yep.
So this is just, I wanted to give everybody links to where you can get scholarships directly from each college. Okay, so first we started off federal with the FAFSA. You can get you can get grants through federal money. Then we talked about Florida. We talked about Bright Futures, and we talked about the other 10 or 12 programs that they have that are grants and scholarships. And now I'm moving on to the level of the college level. And you can see that each of the colleges that I profiled in my earlier slides have financial aid websites that have extra grants and extra scholarships that you can either apply to through a separate application, or it might be just part of when they receive your FAFSA and they look at your child's grades and scores that they're going to automatically consider you for these scholarships. It depends on the college. Each one's different. I'm not going to click on any of these, but these are links that'll get you straight to where you want to go to read about the scholarship. And I just want to explain, I just chose these kind of randomly. There's so many. I wanted to like fill up the page with colleges and say more about each one, but I didn't want to overwhelm you. So this is step 3. Now that you've already looked at what the colleges have to give you in terms of scholarship, these are outside scholarships. And these are just a small sampling of outside scholarships.
These look like some of them are local.
Yeah, well, these are all the ones I chose are local. Does Amy Marie want to talk about the very top bullet point?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Robinson PTSA, we do a scholarship every year, and we do 500 for a technical, vocational, and then we do a 500 for community college, and then a 500 for a 4-year. So all they have to be is a PTSA member. If a student can't for the membership, it's $8. We have sponsors that have stepped up to cover those. So if that's an issue, then we can take care of that, no problem. And it's a very simple form, but it's just, and we're also hoping we're doing a little fundraiser and hopefully being able, if we can add some money to that funding line with our fundraiser this month, we're going to try to do even more. So, but $500, not a ton, but hey, if you're in need of books or moving expenses or something that, and it, like I said, I know someone said, my gosh, there are a lot. It's legitimately, I think maybe 3 or 4 questions. So, and then our county council, which is our county level PTA, we also have a scholarship, and I think it's 1,000 and 500 and 500. So please fill them out. Like, you know, if you're a PTSA member in a local high school, do the county one too. So it's a great opportunity.
And I think Amy Marie mentioned the most important thing is that your student does have to be a PTSA member. So the other thing to know though, like she said, if they don't have the $8, we're certainly not going to let that stop a child from joining. But they do have to join the PTSA, and either they will be granted the $8 or they'll need to pay the $8. But if they're interested in filling out that scholarship, because quite honestly, I've been on the, where we read through the applications, fewer than 50 kids, wouldn't you say, Amy Marie? Probably fewer than 20 kids.
It's fair, yeah, and it's such a simple application. And,
right.
You know, obviously we have lots of great students in our school, so we definitely
it's worth the $8.
So,
yeah,
All
and
right.
I'd say the odds of winning one of those is probably a lot higher than any other scholarship that we have listed. Your numbers are in your favor, so definitely apply for those. And then the rest of the bullet points are ones that are just, they've been around for a long time. Bullet point number 3, I guess I'm going to try to show you this because it is pretty remarkable. I'm going to stop share and then I'm going to go back.
And keep in mind that the matrix that she's about to go through, this is the type of information that is on Canvas in the student services. And Mr. Clay from time to time will even update it based on deadlines that are coming up or deadlines that have passed. So it's so important to learn how to get to student services on Canvas for scholarship information.
And this matrix, you can, every time I get to it, all I do is Google Hillsborough County Schools matrix or Hillsborough County Schools scholarship matrix, and it'll pop up. So it's 6 pages long with scholarships whose deadlines are February and March. But, you know, this Bailey Family Foundation, I think they choose 1 student per high school in Hillsborough County and in Pinellas County, and it's a really amazing grant. It's $5,000 a year, and you have to renew it, but you can renew it for 4 years.
Is that one merit or financial?
It is actually, it is need, it says financial need right
there
here.
it is. Yeah.
So you have to have a FAFSA completed, and it's a minimum cumulative 2.5 GPA. You can get on their website and read about students who've won in the past and read a little bit about what they're looking for. This has always been kind of a puzzle to me. I never know I don't know if I don't know anybody who's won, but I know that it's a very generous
It's
scholarship.
available.
And then, so I just, you know, some of these, like this one, Valrico, is not for Robinson students, but you can read all of these. There's the PTSA and the PTA scholarship that we just talked about. And then, anyway, so you'll see there's just lots and lots that are coming up. These are like, this one is for students that are interested in doing jazz studies at a community college or university. It's $1,000. I mean, these are really great. Some of these are things, you know, you're going to get to anyway. Okay, and we're going to talk about these 2 next. Anyway, so I'll get off of this, go back.
And I know many of you may be thinking, oh, it's so much work. Oh, they have to do essays. Some of these scholarships may not require essays. A couple of them that I'm finding require like a short answer, sort of more fill in the blank type thing. So you never really know. Yes, a lot of them are going to require essays and it's going to take some work, but if you're able to get 500 there, here, 1,000 there, that can certainly add up, even if it's just for books. So I know we're all thinking, it's so much work, but well, yeah, it is, but it's for money. So that's why it's so important to tell your friends who have sophomores and juniors to just sort of get their list together, see what they know their kids are going to qualify for, whether it's merit or whether it's need-based, and start filling some of that stuff out early. Because a lot of times you can start half your application, save your link, and go back to it once you have more information.
Yes. Now, these 2 micro scholarships. So micro scholarships didn't exist until about, I don't know, 10 years ago. I swear I never heard that term before. But these are 2 new ones. One's through the College Board and one is a private company. And neither one requires any essays, but it requires a couple of things. I'm not going to go into too much detail because, boy, it's complicated. But the College Board one starts, it's usually, I think, January of junior year. Your student can sign up for it. It's very simple to sign up. And then every time they complete one activity that gets them closer to applying to college, there's about 8 steps or something. So there are things like choose 5 colleges and put them on a list on the College Board account, and then study for the SAT using Khan Academy, and then
Improve your score.
Improve your score is the next one, I guess. Yeah, so there's all these really great steps. Every time you do that and you log it with your College Board Opportunity Scholarship, each time you get entered into a raffle, and you might be chosen for one of like hundreds of $500 all the way up. The very last one is a $40,000 scholarship. I think they give out 40 of those at the very end.
And what I realized, because I actually just did this for my son, they actually do two sets. They do a merit-based set. Well, I guess I should say they do a separate need-based set. So you really, for every drawing that they do two of them. One of them is based on income, and then the other one is based on, you know, just regular qualifications. But it's a drawing, but
It's a drawing.
it is super easy to fill out because like I said, I just did it when it opened up for juniors. It is like, if you want to get a jump on some stuff, that College Board Opportunity Scholarship, definitely, and the raise.me. And I love this
You
site.
do? Well, talk
Yes.
about it then. Talk about it.
Well, the reason why I like the Raise Me account is because it gives your kids, to me, an incentive to continue doing well, or an incentive to start doing well. What it basically does is, once you fill out the account, now it takes a little bit of time because you have to actually enter in all of their classes and some of their extracurricular activities, but it's not anything difficult. It just takes a little bit of time. What it does is it automatically populates what schools that are participating in the raise.me website. It automatically populates how much money that school would give you. And so, there's certain schools where if you hit certain criteria, you may log through there, and a school in Iowa may already be willing to give your child $50,000 if that's a particular school that they would want to go to. Now, a lot of it is smaller schools, some that we've never heard of, but there are some students in a situation where if a person's going to pay for you to go to school for free, maybe Iowa's not that bad. So, I mean, it just kind of depends on where your students are willing to go. My child has a couple of few specific schools that he wants to go to, so none of them are on raise.me, but it did show us the value of the things that he's done and the value of the grades and the value of the test scores, because there are some schools on there that are already offering thousands and thousands of dollars if he were to select to go to that school. Make sure you understand they're not giving you the money, but they're going to be covering some of the expenses at the actual college if your child were to choose to go there. I just have fun filling it out and like just watching all these calculations occur right there in front of your eyes. I mean, it really is, it's a fun website if you take the time to fill it out.
So I pulled up the website. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So I just saw here, Tulane is part of it. Rollins College. It's outside of Orlando.
Syracuse.
Syracuse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the other one in Florida is actually, there's a couple in Florida. I don't know exactly, but I do know that FIU, so Florida International University. I actually am working with a student who's now a graduate student, but she helped pay for her college tuition by doing raise.me and having it covered she went to FIU. So this young lady is so interesting. She did her associate's degree when she was still in high school here in Tampa. She went to a charter school. So she got her first 2 years of college paid for while she was still in high school. And then she did this raise.me, and that helped pay for her next 2 years at FIU. And now she's going to graduate school, and she's only 2 years out of college because
Wow.
she expedited everything. But anyway, FIU she got to go there because of raise.me.
I just Googled the raise.me list of schools from Florida, and that actually is some of the bigger name schools. UCF, FAU, FIU, St. Pete College, Indian River State College, Flagler College, Berry University. So if you're interested in finding out, okay, well, what schools are really on there, just Google raise.me list of schools. But I say fill it out regardless, just because it is really encouraging to see that your child is eligible for merit-based money in certain places. So it's real. I made me happy. It was fun. Not every day you get, hey, here's $100 grand if you want it. I mean, it's just cool.
All right, so this is just a list that you can click on later that gives you more scholarship search engines so that your child can sign up. They give a little bit of demographic information. And then they get sent like FastWeb, the second one on there. I signed up, 10 years ago for my oldest child, and I still get scholarship emails from FastWeb. And, they send me at least once or twice a day, and I don't mind it because I love looking at all the scholarships out there so I can bring them to the cube for the students.
I will say, Anne, that with a lot of the search engines, you are going to get a lot more email from some of the other organizations that are associated with the search engines as well. So I found that, I click on one thing and then it's like something else pops up. There are ads on the search engines as well. Wouldn't you say, Anne? Is that what a lot of them
Well,
are?
some of them are really bad. These are not. These are ones they'll send you emails, but when I'm on the website, I'm not noticing a lot of crazy stuff coming up. I know like one called scholarships.com.
Maybe
that one's
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them is horrific. So definitely
Yeah,
just stick to these.
Yeah, I chose these because these are much better and they're not bombarding you with crazy stuff. Okay, so this is my favorite part, and we are so not going to have enough time to talk about it. But maybe before we launch into this, should we see if there's questions, because we're getting at 20 minutes before the hour.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I know that this has been so much information. Again, I just want you to kind of scroll through the chat. We have the actual PowerPoint link posted in the chat. We have the Sign Up Genius for a virtual visit to the Cube. Your student can have a one-on-one visit to the Cube as long as they sign up on the Sign Up Genius that's located in Canvas in Student Services. And we keep that link there. The times come out once a week where volunteers are able to be available and kids can sign up to work with a volunteer one-on-one. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, but definitely make sure you learn how to go to Student Services on Canvas. So with all of that said, are there any other questions that if anyone wants to come off mute, have a couple more questions, or if you'd like to go ahead and type them in the chat?
If not, I got lots to talk about.
All righty, Anne, I guess you just take it away.
Okay, so this is, these are, I think it's 2 slides that have to do with reducing the costs or other ways to pay for college. The main one, and it's already, I just want you to know about it, that dual enrollment is a way that a lot of people shorten the number of years they have to go to college, because when they're in high school, going to college at the same time as high school is free. And so they can get a ton of their prerequisites out of the way for college if they're doing dual enrollment. So that's the first one. And then if you take AP classes, and you get a certain score on your AP test, sometimes that gives you college credit. Not always, because it depends on the college, but if you're in state, in Florida, you have a very good chance of getting those credits. And then you can get 1 or 2 years taken care of if you take a lot of AP and dual enrollment. Early admission there's a few colleges, actually a lot more than I thought, that allow students to come during their senior year, like come to college. And then it's complicated, but if you meet some kids that they're just like already mature enough, they are so sick of high school and all the drama, they're ready to move on to college. If they have certain GPAs, certain scores, there are certain colleges that will allow them to come. Instead of going to high school for senior year, they go to college for senior year. And they become a college student. PLEP testing is the one that most people have never heard of, but
yeah,
it is strange. It's by the College Board, okay? PLEP tests. I don't actually even know what they stand for, but I'm gonna look this up. Well, maybe I'm not, because it'll take me too long. So PLEP is, there are, I think, 34 exams in the areas of English, like languages, history, social science, science, math, and business. There's 34 exams. Basically, you buy a book, you study, and it can be like a class on Spanish 2, or college level Spanish 2. You buy the book to study for college level Spanish 2, and you take a test, and look it up at USF. Just do like University of South Florida CLEP, and it'll get you to the page. It'll tell you what your score needs to be in order to get full credit for having taken that as a college course.
So it's kind of like AP classes, but without the class. So
Exactly. Yep. That's
wow,
it.
but it's per school. You would need to go to that school's website, see what CLEP testing they
They
accept,
accept. Exactly.
and then I guess just have your kids study, study, study.
Exactly. So you can save thousands upon thousands of dollars by getting the credits through CLEP. It's called CLEPing out. So if you CLEP
Wow.
out of a class, it's like you've taken it and you've shown that you learned the material, so you don't have to pay for taking the class, and then you get the credit. So there's a limit to that, but you know, no college is going to let you CLEP out of 2
Of
full years.
everything,
You know,
right?
they're gonna give you some, and there'll be a limit to it. But it's one of those hidden gems of ways to cut costs for college that people don't really know about.
Yeah, I'd never heard of. I'd heard of it. I just didn't know what it was. So that was great to clear up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a college board, so just do, you know, CLEP, you know, the name of the college, and then you'll find out what's required. Okay, military academies, this is not for everyone, but you know, if you go to West Point or if you go to Annapolis, your tuition is free. Of course, then you owe 5 to 7 years of military service afterwards, but that's free and clear tuition. And that makes one of the most selective, you know, all of these military academies are incredibly selective.
Extremely selective. Right, right.
And you have to have super, super strong physical strength as well as very good academics, and, you know, be a, you know, your community service and all of that too.
I will say this, obviously we don't have time tonight to cover what the requirements are for military academies, but we do have CUBE volunteers whose children have gotten into some of the military academies. So if you want information specifically about military academies, once again, sign up through the Sign Up Genius, put in your notes that you want to find out about military academies, and we help to find a volunteer to talk to you and your student. I will say this, you need to be no more than a sophomore, because if you haven't started on the path by your junior, senior year, it's never too late for anything, but typically most students will have already known about that. So if you're beginning the stages and you want to find out about military academies, then certainly sign up for the CUBE. Yeah, Ryan just put start early. Exactly, because that's, there's so many different things that you have to do in order to get into some of those schools. So what's a work college?
Okay. Oh my gosh, this is another hidden gem that most people, and the reason you haven't heard of them is that they're kind of new. They began in the, in the 1980s and 90s, and now there's 8 out there. And if you just Google work colleges, you'll get to it's a work college consortium. They're mostly in Kentucky. There's one in North Carolina, Missouri, and Vermont has one. They're smaller colleges. The biggest one is called Berea College in Kentucky. And basically kids, they're relatively selective, but kids get on campus and they work. They have jobs, and that means that they don't pay tuition. I looked it up on a couple of different, because I could hardly believe it. I'm like, what do you mean? Is it really free? What it is that they are contributing to, the maintenance of the buildings. They are cooking food. They are doing all this work so that the university doesn't have to pay other people to do it. And that brings down the whole cost. So at Berea, most students pay between $5,000 and $8,000 each year, and that includes tuition, room, and board. And they are working. And what they really pride themselves on is teaching skills to the students.
Is there a way to get that list? Is there a list of those schools?
Well, I knew about them. And so today, just in preparation for this, I just Googled work colleges. And you'll see, it'll come up. There's a central website, and you can read about each one. One of
cool.
them has 146 students.
Wow, so they could be really small as well.
Yes, they can be really small, but they're really interesting. Some of them seem to have like a religious flavor to them, but I couldn't really get a sense for if that was true for all of them. Some of them are like the one in Vermont is all rural, and it's all about environment and sustainability, and it's really interesting. The one in
Yeah.
Asheville, North Carolina. Anyway, you'll read about them, but it's just a way of bringing down tuition.
So Google work colleges.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't put the link in there. I just didn't really have
That's
room
okay.
on this to throw
That's what
links
it's
in there.
about, just learning what other options are out there and how to find them. I love this Quest Bridge, and there's other programs as well that really start in high school with sort of helping you through the whole application process. And I don't remember specifically what Quest Bridge is, but I know there are a lot of programs like that that help you starting in high school and sort of take you under their wing and provide mentors and can help you with your college essays. But what is specifically is Quest Bridge, Anna?
Well, Questbridge is exactly that, but the other ones are not. So it's hard to explain. Questbridge is it's for very high achieving kids who come from incomes of 60,000 and below. But their scores are somewhere around 1280 or 1300. Their GPAs have to be about a 3.9 or higher. And they have a contract with, I'm forgetting how many, but maybe about 20 or maybe 40 actually, really selective universities. So if a student, the application due date is always September, like September 27th or every year. So you really have to start your junior year, and there's tons of essays. This is one of the ones with a bunch of essays. You have to get letters of recommendation. You have to submit all your scores and everything. And once you apply, then if you are accepted, then they match you with one of their colleges, and then you're given, it's a full ride plus transportation. I mean, their colleges like Yale, you know, most of the Stanford, I don't think Harvard does Questbridge, Vassar, you know, a lot of the closest one to Tampa is Emory in Atlanta. So it's not all the selective colleges, you know, but it's the most amazing program. So they're given mentors, they're given tons of advising, and they form a cohort so that they're all supporting each other. It's a really wonderful program. But we also have, I think we talked about that we're going to make available to everybody on this call our pretty long list of full ride scholarships at university. So you'll see that when we get that out there for everybody.
I put it on the website.
Okay, and now I know I only have like, I'm gonna finish with the tuition reimbursement through employer because I love that. It's another handout that I created 2 years ago, but it is, and I need to get it to somebody to post it, but public. So I'm going to name the employers that will do tuition reimbursement for college. This is so amazing. So Publix reimburses employees for going to college. If you work 10 hours a week at Publix, you can enroll in their program where they'll give you tuition reimbursement. So if you go to USF and you work at Publix, after a certain amount of employment time, not that much, and you work 10 hours a week part-time, they will help reimburse your tuition up to $3,200 a year with a lifetime limit of $12,800. So you could go to HCC for 2 years and get your associate's degree and work at Publix and have it paid for. And nobody really knows about that, but it is, that's one of their perks. And that's why Publix always lands on the companies that are really highly rated to work for. So the other companies, I'm not going to go into detail about their programs, are McDonald's, Home Depot, Lowe's, Wells Fargo, Chipotle, believe it or not. and UPS.
So basically, some of your students' part-time jobs, believe it or not, could also be a way to help pay for school. So, you know, there's so many different things out there, Anne, and it's amazing what you've done to accumulate all this information, especially just as a volunteer.
Oh, I forgot. We have one more to talk about. Southern Scholarship Foundation. Basically, it's free housing in a couple different cities. And you can click on that link and you'll see where that is. So if you get a Bright Future Scholarship and you go to University of Florida and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't afford the dorm. If you're a good student and you apply to Southern Scholarship Foundation, then they will give you a place to live for free. And you can go to school for free with your Bright Future. So it's a wonderful, it's only in Gainesville, Tallahassee, and Fort Myers, just those 3 cities. Okay, and I'm done. That's it.
We did it, Anne, and we even have 4 minutes left. And
Okay,
you
any
were thinking we weren't going to make it through, and we got through all 23 slides, didn't we?
That was a lot of talking.
We did. That's fabulous. I do want to mention, I talked about HBCUs earlier in the presentation. So if you do have a student that's interested in finding out more about historically Black colleges and universities, have them sign up for a virtual visit. My name is Michelle Blaylock, and I would love to talk with them about some of those opportunities, specifically uncf.org. What made me remember that is when we started talking about mentorships, UNCF does offer not only help with finding scholarships, but also mentor programs as well. So who has a question? Because it's got to be someone out there that wants to get off mute and ask a question. No one? Well, I guess that means we did a good job. Oh,
so.
Amy Marie is texting me. She's saying that anyone that fills out the survey gets a drawing for a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. So fill out the survey. She just put it in the chat, right, Amy Marie? Is it in the chat?
Yep, it is.
Okay, perfect. Can I fill out that survey too to get the donuts? I like donuts.
Thank you for all your help.
Oh, thank you for listening and attending. And please just tell parents who have freshmen, sophomores to look at this stuff, because you have to start early.
Yeah, you got to start early. And I will edit this video and then put it on our YouTube channel for Robinson High School. And I've been adding to the cube during this presentation. So if you go to that link, all the stuff, the grid for Bright Futures, the scholarship list that you were talking about, all that stuff's already up on there. So share it with other people. Don't just keep it for yourself. Please share it with your friends. Sometimes your peers will listen to you and maybe not their parents. So gosh, please share it with them too. So thank you guys. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you.
Amy Marie, real quick, because if people don't know how to get to the Robinson High School PTSA site, can they just Google?
They can Google it, or I've been putting it in the chat, but I'll put it in the chat one more time. It is robinsonptsa.com. And then if they go to the cube on there,
it's a drop-down box and you can go to the cube.
I'm going to drop it in the chat one more time. It's just all that information's there. So
perfect.
And links to everything. They can upload all of this information and go through it at their leisure, and get all these links will be clickable. And
yep.
Yeah. So share the wealth, share it with a friend or 2 or 3 or 10. So everybody.
And are we going to do some more of these, Amy Marie? Is that what we were going to try to?
Definitely. We had some requests for maybe essay writing tips. If you fill out the survey and you have ideas or something you didn't see, or you want us to deep dive into something different, put it in there. And Mr. Clay is doing a Zoom at noon every other week. It'll be Wednesdays at noon. The next one's the 10th. I record them and I put them on our website. So just in case, obviously you can't go at noon, it's preserved and you can go back and see. He just went through a whole canvas. He showed us all the stuff on student services and how to find it. If you're a parent that doesn't really haven't been in there a lot, or even a student who didn't know that stuff was there. He walks us through all of it. He is doing an amazing job, as all the student services staff are, at trying to get this information out outside the school and out to all these parents and students. So please.
And you know, I just saw, I didn't see the chat as I was talking, but I just read, does dual enrollment with Embry-Riddle count? Yes, it does. It's just a college credit and you can apply it to whatever college your child applies to. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Amy Marie, thank you so much for putting this on with the kids. We have a where to get more help. Mr. Clay's information, his email address is right there, in addition to plenty of other information. Like I said, though, over and over and over again, go to Canvas, click on student services, and that way you won't miss anything. So I guess that's it, ladies, and some dads are on here as well.
Any more questions before we're off of here?
Last call.
Last call. All right. Thank you guys so much for being willing to just kind of go with the flow and figure out how to find new ways to reach our families and our students, because every child deserves to have support and get what they need to be successful. So yes, as a freshman parent, that's when you start. I started last year. I only have a sophomore. So yeah, I'm learning. I'm trying to get all this information because I want to share it with everybody I know. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye guys.